Hello and welcome to the Chrissy Mayer podcast. We are on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, and SoundCloud. And if you're listening now on iTunes, please go and leave a 5-star review. For example, this kind of funny and weird review from Hates Hurts. The title of the review is Funny, Haha, and Sad in parentheses. Chrissy is not the normal host. She has a lot of funny things to say, and in parentheses, funny, haha. Now that it's after the election, it's a 50-50 split of funny haha and funny sad. I don't agree with the Politico garbage spouted, and it is a bit sad to hear someone who is so bright be so dumb about things. Whatever, that's the fun of the two-party system. Still a good listen. Oh, this sounds like a libertarian. I feel you. I fully support the idea of having more than two parties. But it seems like we're a long way away from that. But you know what we're not a long way away from? Having amazing looking genitalia. That was smooth. Speaking of smooth, this episode is brought to you by Manscaped. They are the best in below the waist trimming with precision engineered tools for your family jewels. They are based here in the US, but just launched in the UK. So now all my British friends can get in on this deal. Wow, I'm wearing too much eyebrow pencil. Okay. I don't know if this has happened to you, but sometimes you'll nick your nuts shaving and then you'll have sex afterwards and it'll be painful. And Manscaped is here to save you from that problem. I had Frank actually try their new lawnmower, and it's like one of their razors, like electric razor things. And I swear to God, it made his whole junk and area look so much bigger. The battery lasts up to 90 minutes, and it comes with a really great recharging station. It's legit, waterproof, has a cutting edge ceramic blade, and will reduce any awkward grooming accidents. If you're a dude, give this a try. I think even for the holidays, they're having like a package deal. It's really good. It's good shit. I don't know how else to say it. They have quality products. Go to manscaped.com and use the code CMP for 20% off plus free shipping. And ladies, you already know what I'm going to say. Go ahead and get this for your man. Christmas is coming. It's a few short weeks away. Invest in him so he can invest in his dick and balls, and then you can invest them in yourself. Get that stocking stuffed. Go to manscaped.com. Use the promo code CMP. Get your 20% off plus free shipping. I don't know if you've been feeling anxious this sort of pre-holiday season. You know, COVID, the lockdowns, it can get you down. It can get you nervous, anxious, depressed. Well, Cushy Dreams is here to help. Cushy Dreams offers a full lineup of premium smokable CBD. They specialize in extraordinary CBD-rich hemp flower, aka bud, in cans, or they'll make these pre-roll CBD joints, which I really like. But you can just stick this in a little pipe or a little, if you have your own little wraps, just crush it up, roll it in, smoke away. Looks, feels, smells, tastes like real marijuana, but it's not. It's just CBD. It's cannabis. It ships directly to you. It's legal in all 50 states. You're going to enjoy all the health benefits of CBD without getting high. There is under 0.3% of THC in these products. So you're not going to go to La La Land. You could basically smoke it, go to work, get some errands done. You know, have a day. It's nice to get high, but it's also nice to not. I really love this product. It's really helped me personally with my anxiety, both like in my head and in my body. It helps me relax. It helps me like lift up off of my depression. If you guys suffer with that too. Best of all, it's grown here in the USA. It's hand trimmed, never machine trimmed. It's very quality stuff. Cushy Dreams has CBD flower in pre-rolls and bud. I already said that. And it comes in specific indica sativa blends like Energy, Create, Relax, Dream. Different, they're not flavors, but I call them flavors because they help you with different things. Again, this stuff is really great. You know, I was somebody who was like diagnosed with ADD like in my 20s. And, you know, they'll always say like, oh, you need to take Adderall, but that stuff makes me really manic and dehydrated and weird. And I feel like CBD products really help me calm down and like focus a little bit and just like get out of my head and relax. So go to cushydreams.com. That's KUSHY dreams.com. Get your high quality CBD bud at the checkout. Use the promo code CMP. You're going to get 20% off every order, not just your first, every order. And free shipping. Get your CBD. I am so excited to have this guy on the podcast today. Known him for years, been a fan for years. He's a stand-up, he's an actor, he's written for Comedy Central, he's been on The Tonight Show, Last Comic Standing, tons of credits, all impressive. You can listen to, he's got a podcast, No Disrespect podcast on Gas Digital Network. It's Mike Vecchione. How
Hi,
are
Chrissy.
you? Yes,
Thanks for having me on.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you on. You're looking very svelte, Mike. Usually the lockdowns have not been kind to many folks, but you look incredible.
Well, thank you very much. My theory is that if you were in shape before the quarantine, you're now fat, and if you were fat, you're now in shape. So everybody switched.
Yeah, like I feel like that did happen for quite a few people that I know. I kind of like, I think I gained like 6 or 7 pounds, but like nothing earth shattering to where I have to buy new clothes, because that for me is like the outer limit of how far I'll like let myself go. But so you were not a fit person before the lockdown?
No, I was fit. I was talking to my friend about it. I'm in Florida visiting my mom for Thanksgiving.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, so I came down and I'll go through, like, there's a whole COVID test because I didn't want to just see my mom without taking a test because she's 80. So I had to take a test, but I took the wrong test. Instead of taking a rapid, I took the PCR test. So now I'm waiting for the results, and I'm just staying on the other side of her condo.
So you have seen her, but you haven't like been near her yet.
Seen her, haven't been near her, and I just got here today. I stayed at my buddy's last night. The whole thing was, I fly like to Miami, and I get, my buddy grabs me, and then I go get a test, and then stay with him for the night, get the results, get cleared, and then come and see my mother. That's the way it was supposed to work, but I messed up. Twice. I forgot to tell my buddy the exact date. So my friend's mom came and got me. We both got a test.
Mm-hmm.
I got the wrong test, and now I still don't have the results, but I'm here anyway. So
when do you get the results? Like tomorrow or before?
I'm checking the email.
Oh, okay.
It tracks it actually tracks them. So it's like, you made the appointment, you've taken the test. We have the results to the lab. The results are being worked on. It tracks where they are. So they're being worked on right now. So hopefully I'll have them in like by tonight.
I wonder if it's like when you order something from Amazon, you can like track your package, and it's like track your COVID test.
That's
and you can
exactly what it is.
Like an image of like a little guy in a laptop.
Yeah. The guy working on your took a lunch break.
The what?
It says the guy who the guy who's working on your test took a lunch break. He has like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for lunch.
Yeah.
They track that. Then it just goes from one thing to another.
He's trying not to get crumbs in your sample.
Right.
Well, that's frustrating and stressful. You would think that if you go to get a COVID test and it's around the time of Thanksgiving, that people would assume that you meant the quicker one.
Yeah, but I guess the quicker one is not as thorough as the one I took. So
okay,
at least the one that I took will be more thorough. I guess the ideal situation is just to get them both. And then you'll have the rapid results in a couple hours. So it's like, oh, you're clear. And then for safety, you get confirmed on the more thorough test later.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wish they would just come up with a home testing kit.
I think they are working on one. It sounds like there might be one in the works, but yeah, that's pretty stressful.
Well, I just want to say on your podcast that I think all scientists are lazy, and I don't think they're working on it. I think they're taking a break, and I think they're out for the holidays, so they're lazy.
Yeah, they're lazy, but no matter what they do, trust the science, trust the science. Yeah, it's like you guys, and I've seen on Twitter over the last few months, a lot of cocky nurses, a lot of people, anybody who works in the medical field thinks they're a freaking hero. And it's like, right. You know what? You're just doing your job. I'm just doing my job. I just happen to be in a different field. Like maybe we're saving lives too, Mike, maybe.
Yeah, we're first responders for comedy first responders. People need to laugh.
Yeah, they don't say penicillin is the best medicine. They say laughter is the best medicine.
That's right. That's right. We're heroes too.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't
I'm
know.
so sick of not being called a hero. Does that ever bother you?
It does. It does bother me because I feel like I have changed people's lives. I feel like I have, my existing has kept people from dying maybe of depression or suicide because I'm able
That's
to
true.
uplift,
Suicides are way up, and we're the first responders to depression. So,
Yeah.
We're heroes also. And I'm getting sick and tired of not getting any credit for it,
I am
because that's
too.
really what it's about now. It's like getting credit for stuff.
Yeah, you need to
Where
get
it's
credit.
at.
I wonder if they could set something up where comedians could answer the suicide hotline, because I think I could talk somebody off a cliff. I think I could talk somebody off a bridge.
Right.
Unless they
I
were
think so too.
I mean,
And if
at
you
first
don't do a good job, if you're bombing, because then the person will not, he'll
Yeah.
die.
You're like,
Or
oh,
she'll die.
I literally killed, or
I
they
thought you were
killed
going to say, I
themselves.
thought you were going to go the other route, which is have a comedian deliver your COVID results.
That would be
I
good
think
too. It would soften the
it's like you have
blow.
to sit. If I was going to do it, you would have to sit through my entire act.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I would tell you whether you're negative or positive.
There really should be more merging of comedy with other stuff during this lockdown. And I'm upset that they're not trying to do that. They really I know in New York, Cuomo's got comedians basically on the same level as strip clubs, and
Right.
there's just no priority to get any of the clubs going.
No, I think hookah lounges are open. How are we behind hookah lounges? Blowing vapors isn't the whole thing vapors? Isn't that the whole thing?
Right. It's all just this. Yeah, it's literally the spreading of vapors and smoke, and who knows what's in there. And I can't believe people are still smoking out of hookahs.
Smoking out of hookahs, which is one big, I don't even know how it actually works, but you smoke, you get radicalized, you join a sect, and then you blow tiny vapors. I don't know. They're open though.
It's really, it's insulting. It's insulting. And it reminds me of how few of our government officials appreciate comedy.
No, they don't. I mean, obviously they haven't been to many of our Zoom shows.
Yeah.
Because our Zoom shows are explosive.
Tell me have you done any Zoom shows, Mike?
I've done them, but I usually just do them for money, So it's like, in terms of do you want to do a Zoom show for $25? I'm like, nah, I'm good. Because it's like, we would do the spots for $25. Like, I'm not doing it for $25. I'm usually doing them for the work, to work out jokes. You know what I mean? But the $25 helps. I'm not above $25. But if the most of it is I'm getting the work on the jokes, you know what I mean? And the $25 is like gas money or whatever. But for a Zoom show, I don't feel like I'm working out the material really. So if I'm not getting anything out of it that way, I might as well hold out for more money.
It's like the $25 would be for you to turn your computer on, put a shirt on,
right?
Maybe a little product, but yeah, it's really
putting
hard.
A shirt on is a big deal these days. Okay, Chrissy, I wouldn't you just glossed over that really fast.
I'm embarrassed to say, usually I have a whole thing, but I literally just threw on this zippy hoodie thing, and I was like,
with no bra.
I'm not. This is the first podcast I've done braless. I didn't think I would actually have to tell the good people that I'm doing this podcast braless, and thank God it's not live, because people would be like, show your tit, and I'm like, no. Yeah, it was. I got my coffee.
The fans only page?
I've debated doing an OnlyFans, but I haven't done it yet. I have a Patreon that I'll put advanced podcast episodes on, and maybe some gently scandalous pictures from calendar shoots I've done over the years.
Right.
It's you get your $8 worth, I think, hopefully. Yeah, but it's what I find is so hard is it's almost do you get the feeling, Mike, sometimes what's the point? Doing spots around the city, you're building your momentum, you're working on bits, you're excited to try them again that night or the next night. And now it's just right, you do a Zoom show. If it pays enough money, great. If it doesn't, okay. But even if you have a great Zoom show, it's okay, well then when's the next time you're going to have a great show? It's for me, it's a little bit of a bummer. I don't know how you have.
For me, it made me realize how not that I was doing the business wrong, but it's it made made me realize how I'm allocating my time. I don't know if this ever came up for you. It's like I'm doing a million spots. Like I'm doing a million spots every week, and I'm like working my act out. Like I'm always working on it, but it's like, am I making the best use of my time? Like maybe I should cut my spots down and work on these bigger projects that everybody's forced to work on now. It's like I've really come
Yeah.
to that conclusion. It's like, oh, maybe that's a better use of my time now, and maybe it would have been a better use of my time when everybody was still like hustling. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, when I did an episode with Sarah Tolmash, I think a couple days ago, and we both kind of had this realization of like, oh wow, we spend so much time just like commuting and getting around and like running back and forth to places where maybe we could have been like, all right, we'll hold off on some spots, but right, yeah, work on writing a script or editing or doing more sketches but now it's just like, all right, of course, everybody's home. You might as well work on something sort of bigger and more valuable. But
Yeah, it's gotta, some of this has to, like, I'm all for like working on stuff, but like when you work on stuff, it has, and your act is like the constant evolving thing that never gets finished. So you're constantly working on it. But at the same time, it's like with these projects, you have to work on them and have some kind of a conclusion and then try to sell it, or there has to be money at the end of this somewhere. You know what I mean? Besides just live touring, you
yeah.
know?
Are you thinking about like for yourself, like a book or a movie, or like what's your sort of bigger
I mean, I wrote a
project?
script, so I'm finishing it. It's been in the, I wrote it, and then now I haven't looked at it for a while. So maybe I'll go back to, it's almost done for a show, like a pilot. But I'm working on my podcast mostly. It's like podcast is your own show. So it's like if you work on your own show, it's like that's another thing that's all consuming. And then if you can work on the clips and then work on getting, you know, a lot of it's now, I'm sorry to say, whether you like it or not, is internet marketing. It's like marketing your stuff to people who may be fans, and then trying to get them as fans, and then trying to get them to come see your live stand up, which is all of our strengths. But it's like you need the other thing, and that's always been said to me. It's like, well, what's the you need the other thing. Everybody does stand up, so it's like, what's the other thing that you are doing? And it's worth examining what the other thing is, you know.
So what you mean by that, because I think I've heard people say this too over the years, like it's not enough to just be funny or just have good stand-up. It's like you need your other thing. And that's how you find your niche and where your fans are. Because if you're just like, I do stand-up, a lot of people just do stand-up. So like I think with Justin Silver, who's your podcast partner, he's like stand-up and he's really good with dogs. Is that a
Right.
good example of like, okay,
That's a good
a
example, but he left
melding?
the podcast. It's a sore spot, and I know you
Oh
were probably trying
God.
to jab at me, but no, he
I'm
left. He
so
left to work
sorry.
on the dogs. The dogs grabbed his pant leg and dragged him into the away from the podcast.
Oh my
No, we left on good
gosh.
terms, but
Okay.
he's all working on his. I'm just doing the podcast myself now. But
Fuck them. We
yeah,
don't
you
need
need
them.
the
Fuck
other.
them.
You need the other thing. The other thing is like, that's a good example of him. That's like, or some guy's podcast blew up, and as a result, like their stand-up is now wildly popular. And in my opinion, their stand-up might not be that great, but their people love their podcast, so they'll come and see them do stand-up. And
Yeah,
they don't
it's
really, they forgive them for not being a one, you know, a great stand-up. So
do you find yourself sometimes being a little more critical of like people who have maybe more like blown up because you're like, you know, thinking of it more like a stand-up purist point of view, like, you know, I sometimes get that way too, where I'll look at somebody like who was I talking about? It might have been like a Sarah Cooper or somebody like that, where like they really blew up, whatever it was. People are like, oh, I love your personality because you're TikToks, and then she gets all this stuff. Do you find yourself like sometimes looking at the folks who have like kind of blown up and you're like, yeah, well, they may or may not necessarily like have the talent or the stand-up to back up their newfound attention?
right, I used to do that, but now I'm just trying to figure it out. Like you know what I mean? You can just get mad at it and go, oh, this person doesn't have the skill set that we have because we're in the clubs all the time. But then you could look at it and be like, okay, why? Like, why is this happening? Like, what why are people attracted to this? You know what I mean? Instead of getting mad at it. So that's what I'm trying to do now. Plus, everybody's got their own path. I mean, that's really worth it. It's like worth looking at. It's like everybody's got their own path. So, you know, that's really what it is. I might not necessarily, I mean, I want money and I want like my fans, but but my route is not the same as her route or somebody else's route. But more so, I'm just more curious as to why. You know, I know what hardcore comedy fans think, because like the hardcore comedy fans are in it the way that we're in it. Like they can tell who's good and who they can tell the skill level. But I figured out that most people who are just like casual fans or see stand up once in a while, who aren't in our scene and don't know stuff, like they don't know. They're focused on other things in their life. Like I got a family, I got to go to school, like so they're not these connoisseurs. So they don't know. They don't know. They see something they think is funny, like, oh, this person's funny. They're not the hardcore people, they're hardcore fans that follow us, or they're not comics. So, there's a real disconnect there, I think, where we think it's like, how are you not getting this? It's like, yeah, I'm not in the clubs every night. Like I see something on YouTube, I think it's funny, like I'll follow the person or however it happens. But I'm more curious about how people build a following versus if they have a skill set or they don't have a skill set, because that's wasted energy. You know what I mean? To get mad and be like, oh, how's this person doing it? I'm in the clubs every night for 20 years. It's like, yeah, that's all. I understand the emotion, but it's all like kind of wasted energy in terms of like thinking of like, okay, well, how did this person do it? Like maybe you can learn something from that person or from other people who managed to get a following, because that's really what we want. We want a following to be able to make money and be able to, get on a huge platform to put our stuff out, people to consume it.
I think part of it is, it's good to have that to keep in mind, like, and I feel that way too. Whenever I feel like a little bit of jealousy creeping up, I quickly shut it down by being like, you know what, Chrissy, like whatever's meant for you will come to you. Like, not to be lazy, not that that's the reason to check out and stop trying, but like there is no lack of opportunity in this world. If somebody gets something, that doesn't mean that they're taking it from you. That doesn't even mean that there's no more of those things left. And things are changing so much. So it's like thinking about like, okay, like who has enjoyed my stuff in the past? Maybe if you can figure out that demographic and then thinking like, okay, like how do I find more of those people? If it's like, and it's so strange because I'll look at mine and it's like, it's guys and girls. And then, but sometimes like for the podcast, and podcasting in general attracts more male listeners and viewers. So it's just thinking about like, all right, but then it's, there's so much to keep in mind because, all right, well, not everybody, especially the younger folks, they may not have like the attention span to watch a whole podcast. They're not going to watch a 20-minute, or 40-minute stand-up special. So it's like, oh, what do you have that can be chopped up really small that you could, do I have to fuck with TikTok? Okay. I think it's just throwing a lot of shit at the wall and seeing what works. Like, I don't know. I feel like I got kind of tired of TikTok because I just was like, I don't know. I don't think I'd
I think it's you do what you do and then you try to find, oh, maybe it'll work on this platform or maybe it'll work on that platform. It's like, it's a lot of trial and error, but it really does help to like learn some kind of a marketing, have some kind of a marketing strategy or something. I think that if you have good, you're doing, and that's not necessarily a get out of, for you to stop working on what you're doing. It's like, I like what I'm doing. I like the way that I'm doing it. It's just that I would like to reach more people. So how do I do that? It's like, oh, there's different strategies for doing that. And if I have to put money into it, then that's what I have to do. I put money into it, but it's like, I'm still trying to figure that out too.
It is. It's frustrating. It's like, but thank God. I mean, that comedy does in a way kind of translate to online. There are some jobs that just don't, like, they're just, there's a lot of people that are just like really fucked right now. And it's frustrating, but
there's a way to take advantage of this pandemic and everybody's inside. There's a way to do it. So we just kind of have to put our minds and it's not necessarily a bad thing, because it's like I was in the clubs, like I was living a certain way, and it's like, I mean, how long is that sustainable? It's great. It was great for what it was, but it's like, this is a chance to shift a little bit. So why not take advantage of it?
What do you miss most about not being in the clubs every night?
I miss the hang with other comics, and then because with the hang, it's like the free exchange of ideas. whether you're working on your set or whatever. It's like, oh, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? Talking after the set, how are you, personal stuff too, like how are you doing, what's going on with you, and just the general hang. But also it's like, what do you got going on, or I'm doing this, or I've got this project. It's like, that's the beauty of our scene. Like the New York scene is like our interactions and the number of clubs and rooms there are. It's like, we have such I think like a small group of people, like a tight group, and we're always like checking in with each other, running ideas past each other. And not for nothing, but a lot of other scenes, I've been on the road, and a lot of other scenes look at our scene. They look to our scene because our scene is a great one, New York.
And it's almost like, how can you even replicate that? Like, there's no way LA, even pre-lockdown times, like would ever have been able to, because you have to have a car, you have to have at least like Uber from, place to place. There's no.
I think what you're saying is we're better. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we're just sort of better.
Not to judge anybody. I mean, LA's great.
They're great at some things. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
we're better.
They have maybe more homeless. Yeah. They're great at certain things.
Plus they're on fire a lot of times.
It's hot there. Yeah.
It's hot.
Man, I was in LA in March, like right as the lockdown and all the chaos was happening. And I was like headlining a show at the Moroccan Lounge, which is in downtown LA, which was, I think, predominantly a music venue. But I remember so I was like doing the headlining show, and I was like, oh man, I had this whole big, boat full of fans coming in from China, but this is when all the cruise ships were being like marooned out in the ocean. And it was wild. It was a thing that like we were joking about. And it's like, it's so crazy to like fast forward 9 months later. And it's like, oh shit.
I was in Chicago at Zany's, which is a great club. But I could tell, I could tell between the Friday early and the Friday late show, the NBA season shut down.
Wow.
So they shut the NBA down. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is going to be a thing.
That was the first really big, like, oh my God, at the time it felt like unnecessarily like a big move. It felt like,
Tom Hanks got it and the NBA shut down. Those two things. That was the prophecy.
Yeah. And now Tom Hanks is in Greece.
Hanks, yeah.
Living it up. Yeah. What do you think, like, where do you see comedy going?
I don't know. I think it's definitely going to shift. I don't think it's going to be this. I mean, clubs are still going to, I think if we get a vaccine and clubs, it'll all come back. I think it will come back. But first of all, it won't come back right away. I think people will be hesitant, but it will come back. But I think that maybe this Zoom shows will still be a thing, and other technology will still be like a thing, and even more so than what it was. I spent so much time on live performance, like I'm getting my live act, and I'm starting to question it now in terms of like, not that it's good work. I don't regret any of it, but it's like, I think it's going to shift to other things. I think it's reprioritized my focus in terms of like, just there, you can't just keep working on your act. I mean, you can, but it's not the most profitable, beneficial way to go through your career. Like, work on a couple of other projects and like see them through, and then either try to sell them or put them out, like whatever, like it doesn't even matter, like figure it out. But it's good to use our skill set on something other than stand up.
Yeah.
Because if you look at stand up, it's like, it's so subjective. It's like, you and I know what a skill set is. But like I said, a lot of people don't, and a lot of people just are like, whatever. And that's the way that it is. So it's like, it's beneficial to use your skill set on other projects, because you never know what's gonna pop, and what can make you a lot of money, or get you a certain platform or a number of fans. Yeah.
It almost sounds like you're saying that over the years, perhaps you started and stopped on a few projects. Like, it almost sounds like,
well, no, I never, first of all, I in my personal life, like, I felt like this is going to sound what it sounds like, but it's like, I was eating wrong a lot of the times. I would work out. I was always like a workout guy, but like, my energy levels will be low. I couldn't figure out why my energy level was low. And as a result, like I would be so tired from like spots and the road and different industry people over the years, as they will, they're like, oh, do you have a script? Do you have anything? It's like, no. It's like, well, why don't you have that stuff? It's like, when do I have time to have that? Like, I'm like planning my road work. I'm buying flights. I'm booking city spots. I'm trying to prepare for them. I'm going out and doing them. Like it's like that's a full-time thing. It's like, well, who has time to, well, take 2 weeks off and write a script then? And it's like, well, no, I refuse to take 2 weeks off because then I feel like I'm, not working on my act. It's like, you have to prioritize after it kind of crystallized like priorities, like have some priorities and if you're gonna like do something and see it through and then move on.
It's almost like when somebody is in a position, oh, like, do you have a script? Where's your stuff? And it's like, I could almost understand like getting angry at that. Like, fuck, I'm just trying to like get through. I'm just trying to like keep my set good. I'm always listening to sets. You're trying to just keep, not tread water, but like stay good. It
Right.
seems hard. And then like the money that you would not make from taking 2 weeks off, it's it's definitely frustrating. It's a balance. But you were on the King of Staten Island movie.
Yes.
That came out. Did that come out in like, I know that came out before the lockdown.
It came out in June.
Oh my God. Really?
Yeah, it came out in
Okay.
June. Yeah. So I guess they had a choice. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I think that they had a choice to release it after, like, wait till the pandemic was over. I guess they could have waited till it was over to release it, but who knows when that would have been, or just release it on video or, not Netflix, but on so people could buy it and watch it at home. So they did that.
What was the process like because were you friends with Pete Davidson before being in his movie?
Yeah, I was friends with Pete. I knew Pete like when he was really young when he started, but I knew Pete, but I would like just in passing, you know what I mean. But I did know him, and but we wouldn't like hang. I wasn't like hanging out with him or anything like that. But I knew him just from the scene, just for him being a young guy on the scene, and so yeah, no, I got a call to. And I wasn't really auditioning that much, but my guy called me and was like, hey, do you want to go in for this audition? And I was like, well, I was supposed to go to Tampa that night. So I go, oh, it's probably going to conflict with my flight. And he goes, well, you would be auditioning for Pete and Judd in the room because they do like a lot of improv. They like improv. Judd loves improv. So they need the actors to see if you could improv in the room. So I was like, oh, I'll push my flight back for that.
Oh, wow.
I thought it was just going to be a, what do you call it?
For casting directors or just
casting director. And I thought I was going to do, which I should have pushed it back for that. But, but once they said that Pete and Judd were going to be in the room, I was like, oh, okay, I'm definitely pushing my flight back. So I went in, I did it, prepared for it. Really, that's the other thing too. I don't know how you were, but like as a comic, like there would be auditions, like I wouldn't really prepare for them. I would get them. I would look at them like a hassle. I don't look at them like that anymore. I look at an audition like I prepare for it like it's a late night. Like I memorize it. I like work on it really hard.
Wow.
And then I go in and I do it like I act like it's a late night. And so I did that. And then they were like, oh, cool. And I did good in the room, but they were like, we'll let you know. And then I was at Moon Tower and Pete called me and he was like, you're in, man.
Yay!
Congratulations. And I was like, oh, that's great. And the process was unbelievable. It was like 3 weeks of shooting. And we went to fire training and all that stuff for a couple days for what the firefighters go through, because I played a firefighter. And it was really, I mean, people always say this about movies, but I've never been on a set of a huge movie like that and had a part like working with Steve Buscemi and Dominic Lombardozzi and these guys who were unbelievable, man. So I really, it was one night, we shot for 3 weeks. And one night, it was like a Friday night. And they were like, we might not need you anymore, but go to dinner and then we'll make the decision. And this is the PA telling me, go to dinner, we'll make the decision. And then we'll let you know. So I go eat, and like the food was incredible. Like the spread, there was like
Ooh, what kind
ribs
of
and
food?
steaks and
Okay.
all kinds of stuff that they were grilling. Like it was just anything that you could want. So I ate, and then and everybody was. I mean, people were like, oh, "Do you think we're cut? You think we go home?" Because like a Friday night or whatever. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, I'm actually fine. Like even if they cut us, I could just hang out here. It's like a summer night. We're shooting in Staten Island, and it's like a beautiful night. I'm on the set of a huge movie that I'm a part of. I'm like, where else do I want to be?
Yeah. Yeah. Who were the other
Like,
firemen that you were hanging out with at this time?
well, some guys were like, there's a few guys who were firefighters and actors. So they
Oh,
were actively
cool.
working for the fire department and actors. And those guys were great guys. And then a few firefighters like me who were just acting. But I was the only one besides Burr. Burr was, Burr's the lead, but
Mhm.
and so we'd have some scenes with him. But I was the only stand up in our, besides, obviously Burr was is a stand up, but so it wasn't other stand ups. It was just the other actors and a few of the guys that, like I said, were firefighters. So it was a great hang
How did
too.
being a stand-up help you in the movie? Like with your audition, like how much improvising were you doing? Like what actually I'm curious, what was the audition like? Like what did they have you prepare? Was it just like a regular scene and they said go nuts with it?
Yeah, no, it was a scene with lines. So it's like learn the lines and learn how to do the scene, practice it over and over again. And I did that, made sure I was ready with the lines, and made sure I could do it a couple different ways, and then so I made sure I did that. And so they had me do the scene with the lines, and then and then the, and then he was like, okay, just improv now. And Judd would like yell the situation, and me and Pete improved back and forth, and it was good. I was making him laugh.
Mhm.
Ricky Velez was in the room, who's also a friend. I was making him
Yeah.
laugh. It was a good back and forth, and I'm like, oh, okay, this was good. And it's like you walk out of something like that. I've walked out of auditions like that before and been like, I left it there. I did the best I could. That was good. I mean, I prepared for it and I did good. So it's like if I don't get it, then it's just out of my hands now. But
Right.
I did my part, which is to work hard and to like and made sure I performed up to par. But no, I did one with the lines and one improv, and then I'm like, all right, we'll let you know. And I'm like, after I walked out of it, I'm like, good, I can forget about it now because I did, I did good. I
You put
did the
it all
best I
out.
could in it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've done a couple auditions and I can imagine like if I was doing one kind of for like a friend's movie that really would motivate me to like give it everything I had. Cause I mean, I haven't done a ton of auditions, but here and there, I'm just like, I don't know. It's almost like now hearing you describe how hard you worked for this audition, I'm like, oh, I guess I wasn't working very hard. I don't know.
right. I mean, because I was like you. I mean, I think as stand-ups, it's like we just want to do stand-up. So it's like, oh, we don't take these things seriously a lot of times, and it's like, oh, we have confidence in our presence, like too. And it's like,
Mhm.
no, actually prepare for it, and then use your improv skills on top of it. But actually go ahead and prepare for it because it could be a big thing, or it could be a lot of money, it could be an opportunity. So you don't want to waste those things. And then that opens, like I'm saying, like what's your other thing? It's like that could be your other thing that opens stand up for you. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
being in that movie was like a great number one, a great experience, but it's also like now you're in a big budget movie. It's like, oh, that matters. That stuff all matters.
Yeah. And so Pete lost his dad in 9/11. What did you ever like through any of the shooting process or just like even hanging out with him during when the movie was like in production? Did you ever see him, revealing any kind of like vulnerability or like feelings coming back up for him? Because I think the character he played was like pretty close to himself.
Right. He played a character close to himself. No, but I was only in for the firefighter scenes. Like we shot at the end. So
Mhm.
all of the previous stuff, like there's a lot of our friends who were in it. Like uh, Lynn was in it. Keith Robinson was in it.
Mhm.
Rich and Bonnie were in it. It's like they all were great. But I didn't see, and Ricky Velez he had a huge part. He's Pete's friend in it. And he's great, like great. And I didn't see them shoot any of that because
Okay.
we didn't shoot until the end. But no, I thought Pete did a great job. Like after just watching them, just yeah, I obviously watching when I was there, but you don't know, like, you don't know how it's going to translate from what you're doing to the screen. And plus, you don't know what's going to get cut and how it's going to be edited. But Pete was really great in the moment. Like, he's a good actor, really good.
Wow.
And he's really good in the moment. And then when you see it translated to the screen, I'm like, oh, that's really,
It's
it's really
magical.
high
Yeah.
level. Yeah. It's really high level stuff. And it's the stuff that's like, people go to acting school and stuff for, you know what I mean? But he's like, I think a natural.
Wow. Yeah. So he was just able to access all that stuff. I
Right.
mean, how amazing. And the people that are like, I paid so much for acting school, this motherfucker. And then like,
Yeah.
look at this Mike Vecchio gets to just throw on a fire costume and he's
Yeah.
just
Well,
there.
I did go to, I mean, I did go to acting classes and stuff, like in addition to stand up for a couple. I did take a couple of different acting classes. So, and I've been in the scene for 20 years. So it's like, I don't know.
Do you feel like the acting classes really helped you?
They did give me they gave me insight. Like, they gave me insight as to like, first of all, you have to prepare for it, and kind of how to prepare, and like to emotionally attach to the words, or find something within you to connect to in the character. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Yes, that did help.
Because I
Because
think,
I don't know
mhm.
all this. I didn't know any of that stuff before I took the class.
I think about how much money I spent taking improv classes before I ever started doing stand up. I think I took like must have been for 5 years. I was just doing one improv class after another, one $400 improv class after another for 5 years. And I like was still living at home, which is why I could afford it, because I would just like work all day, do improv, go home. And that was like 5 years. And like
Wow.
I look back and like talk about something that that improv is probably the number one thing that like does not give you a return on your investment. And there's so many people who there really is an improv bubble where you get caught up in thinking like, oh, of course we're never going to make money. You're just like a slave to this art form. And it's almost like people who study art history and then can't get a job. They're like, oh
Right.
God, but it's art history. It's like, it's just so great. And that's how improv people are, because it's like it's really more theater people
Right.
who are like the arts instead of stand-ups, which I found are like more just real dudes, like real people. You want to make a living, it's,
Right.
and also improv
But I
is like,
mean, it's like kind of the same thing in terms of like, I obviously there's more money in stand up with live touring, but it's
yeah.
like, okay, like I need to make more money than just live tour, or I need something to get people to come out to my live dates. Like, what is that thing? It's like, it's not just doing this.
Did you get to keep your fireman costume?
No, I
Oh,
didn't
I
keep
could
any of them
say
because the
that
costumes,
would be
like,
the
we
way,
shot one
Mike.
day. Yeah, I could do just a firefighter
Just throw it
podcast.
on. Yeah. And just do a little teaser. Yeah.
It's fans only,
Yeah.
Chrissy. That would be my
Yeah.
fans only. Firefighter striptease.
Yeah. Be like, if you want to see my hose, sign up for my OnlyFans, $5 a month. You could see all this hose. That's exciting. It must have been really great for Pete to like include so many of his, stand-up buddies and like people from the scene. Like that's pretty cool. I feel like that
Yeah,
was,
I thought
yeah.
it was. I thought so.
I feel like that was
It was
probably
great. It was a
meaningful.
great experience overall. And then I went to Israel right before Christmas last year. About this time I went to Israel. That was unbelievable. So, I
Why'd you
don't
go to
know, but
Israel? Just to
what's
go.
that?
What made you want to go to Israel?
Stand up. Avi Lieberman has this tour over there. I don't know if you know Avi, but it's a great tour. It's called Comedy for Kobe. It's an Israeli child who was kidnapped and killed. So it's like to
Oh.
benefit summer camps and counseling for kids like that over there. So, but it's a theater tour in Israel. So he had me and Godfrey over for that, and Andy Pitts, me, Godfrey, and Andy Pitts, and it was such a great experience. It really was so
Because
cool.
you felt like you were like doing something good, and like plus you get to see a new country.
Right. I mean, plus it was like I have a joke, but it's really true. I did all my Christmas shopping in Jerusalem. So
I
I
need
got
a
my
new
mom all
manger.
kinds of religious stuff, and all that. It was great.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like stand up being in comedy is nutty because it's like you'll do really cool gigs
Right.
like the Israel gig and being in the Kings of Staten Island, but you were also on Comics Unleashed with Byron Allen, which
Yeah.
a lot of comics
Lot.
would shit on that show. Would
Nah,
basically,
it's like an opportunity, man. Like every
yeah,
opportunity, you know, you take it, and it was, that was even fun, like a fun experience. It's like, yeah, anytime, like, you know, we like perform in bars and dingy, like all kinds of stuff. Anytime there's a little daylight, it's all good. You know, people don't realize that about us. Maybe they don't. I don't know, but like we're in bars and shitty clubs and all kinds of other stuff. You know, where that doesn't pay. So when you get a chance, like, to get some exposure, regardless of what it is. Now it could be podcasts or whatever. It's like anything that's a little daylight is great. Like we've all paid our dues in these less than stellar gigs. So
yeah. Yeah, it's like it was a real, I mean, it's a real credit. And I think people criticized it because it was like this panel show
right,
where he would kind of like set you up to do your material like
right.
conversationally. And I just, it reminds me of like, cause I did this show Laughs, which was on Fox like years back. And
Hmm.
I remember so many people were like giving me shit for doing it. Like, oh, it's not a real, you know, not a real stand-up show because it was like kind of clips. And I was like, yeah, well, I don't know. I got like $100 or $200 and like it's, you know, you have a credit and your stuff is on TV. And now looking back, I'm like, this stuff is still like looping on Hulu or wherever. And it's like, it'll never come down. But you just have to like do what you can and grab up whatever random opportunities like I did.
Yeah, it's tough to navigate. It's tough to navigate.
Yeah.
What, like if you don't feel it, if you feel like it's not worth it for you, or feel like it's not beneficial, then don't do it. Like that's the thing. It's like don't do the things that create a conflict for you. Just don't do them, and then do the things that do, or create. Now the good part is, like, we can do stuff like this, or you can create your own. You can create your own thing, but then you have
Yeah.
to get behind that and really push that and figure out how to do that. So it's just a matter of preference, I think.
Yeah, and there's no manual for this. There's no like when anybody starts doing stand up, well, you're going to do mics for 3 years and then you're going to try to start opening for people. Like there's no there's
It's
very
really like starting your own, at this day and
yeah.
age. It's really like starting your own business. Like I think it used to be where it's a thing where it's like, oh, I'll do stand up and I'll get seen by somebody, and then I'll get opportunities, and maybe I'll like make connections and blow up that way. Now it's more like, I mean, there's still that element of it, connecting to other people, but it's more about functioning as your own business, I
Because they
think.
don't tell you. Yeah, you have to know. You're like a one man band. You have to do
Right,
all your own
right,
production and graphic design. And like if you
right.
can't do it, find the people that can
Yeah,
because like nobody really cares if you can't do everything. It's like
right.
they're going to notice the people that are able to package themselves well. And it makes me, I look back to like the years I spent like just trying to get seen. And now looking back, it's like, oh, that feels like almost like a waste of time, just like hanging out at shows instead of, I don't know, maybe writing something or,
Right.
yeah.
Right. But it's not, maybe it's not a waste though, because you never know who you're connected to can come back up in your life, and that's an opportunity. Like we can't see the future. It's like you don't know. So it could be the fact that you're friends with somebody, and that could come back and offer you an opportunity that you never would have had if you didn't get to know that person or immerse yourself in the scene. Like I look at that too, where it's like I immersed myself in the scene, and as a result I got all these opportunities from it. So maybe that was the right way to go. You know what I mean? Like for me at the time, I didn't know any different. So that's, and I don't think any of this stuff was really available until very, very recently. So that's the way you had to do it. You know, you just looked at other people who were successful, and you're like, oh, this is the way you have to do it. You have to immerse yourself in the scene, and just be a good member of the community, and just work hard and do stand up, and and yeah, maybe those things have paid off in different ways now that I think about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And if
But
you
it's
do
always
all that,
shifting. Things are always
mhm.
shifting. Things are always evolving. So it's like you just got to keep up with it. But
Yeah, things are always shifting. And like a late night spot a few years ago would have, you know, it's a lot of comics like end all be all. Oh my God, this is
right,
going to like uplift me. This is going to
right,
get me on the road more. This is going to get me into like the better city shows. And like, I can't see that meaning as much as it did even like a year or two ago. I feel like a lot of people are kind of checking out on late night shows and SNL. People are sort of like, yeah, we're going to find our comedy and our content elsewhere. So,
Right.
yeah.
I mean, maybe you don't pursue it like as hard. Maybe you don't put as much energy into it as you used to, because that used to be the end all be all. But maybe people aren't religiously watching the show, but maybe your clip does good, or maybe you could take a joke from the clip and it does something. It's like all these different ways now that it could work for you, because it lives on the internet now.
Mm-hmm.
So
just along with my nude photos. No, I'm just kidding. I have had nude
fans
photos.
only.
Yeah. Go. You got to pay your $5. And if all that wasn't enough to think about, you also have to worry about as a comic, like being canceled. And you don't know that you're getting canceled until you have people coming after you. Has that ever been something you've had to deal with, either with your, podcast on Gas Digital, which is, similar to Compound Media in a few ways, because I have a show on that network. I've done spots on Gas too, and a lot of people will sometimes like lump them in the same group of podcast networks. But I know there have been times where people have like come out towards Gas Digital or Compound trying to cancel. Has that ever happened for you specifically, or your podcast, or have you felt any of that?
I mean, everybody's been pretty good. Like if you're, it's kind of a thing where it's like, you just don't waste your time if you're a fan of it. Like I don't court that kind of stuff either. So it's like, if you're a fan of it, good. If you're not, then I get it. That's fine too. So, but yeah, it's my podcast is mostly it's just a joke based podcast. So if you're logging on there to like, for any other reason than jokes or whatever, or because you're a fan of mine, and it's like, it's just not worth it for you. Like, go somewhere else. And there's there's people who do court that, and they like that controversy, and that's a part of what they're doing. That's just not what I do. And I understand that doesn't absolve. I'm still vulnerable to it. So I'm all for, like most comics, I'm for free speech, and like, it's the cornerstone of what we're doing. And I'm against all this cancel culture stuff. But yeah, that's basically where I leave it. It was like, I guess I would deal with it if it came. But I just market myself as a joke-based podcast, and then whatever, you know what I mean? Then we'll deal with it as it comes. But I'm anti-cancel culture, and I think we need to be able to have that space to, people are like, well, it's not, that's the first go-to. It's not funny. It's like, yeah, but you understand, like, things just aren't actually, very rarely are they just funny. You have to work them. And in order to work it, you have to have, there's got to be trial and error, and you have to have room for that. You can't shut that down. So.
Yeah. It's like, you can't, okay, we're going to appreciate the art, but not the mess that needs to
It's like,
happen
people don't want
before.
to, if you don't want to see how the sausage is made, then but it's like, but people have a hard time wrapping their head around that. It's like, oh, it's just funny. It's like, no, it's actually not. It takes tinkering, and it's like, I mean, because they're not in the rooms with us where we have to write, where you're writing your set. You're like, oh, so, and very few people, I don't think anybody, but I think very few people are going out there just to fail and just to like piss people off. I mean, that might be some people's thing. I'm just going to go out there to piss, but mostly we want the jokes to work. And there doesn't need to be a protest or a cancellation. If the joke doesn't work, it just won't work.
People won't
And then
laugh,
eventually we'll just move on to something that does work. So if it doesn't work, there doesn't need to be any of this protest or anything. It just won't work. And then you go, oh, okay, I need to revise something. I need to revise the setup, or I've had jokes too where it just gets too much of an awe, and it's not worth the trouble of it. So it's like, oh, I need to revise something in it. The setup needs to soften it. Like, I need to do something in order to make this a little bit more digestible, because you just can't do things that stops the show or that gives more of an awe when you're looking for a laugh. It's like, it's something I'm doing. So it's like, I'll have to figure it out. But we all need the fans to be, or the people in attendance to be patient while we're trying to do that.
I wonder if what you're explaining is a result of society being, they're more so seeing the finished product of things, especially as far as like online goes. It's like they're almost like, oh, when they see the mess or the trial and error, they're like, oh, this isn't the finished product that I'm used to. And I don't know. Yeah,
I
maybe
think it's a
it's
lot too. It's like people don't want you to be a mean person. It's like, oh, you're mean. You're a mean-spirited person. It's like, no, I'm not a mean-spirited person. I'm trying to figure out the joke though. And if the joke's got something in it that's off-putting, like I'll know that from the audience response. I don't need one person to like hit me up and like be like, you suck, you're a this, you're that. It's like, I don't know what you're doing. It's like I'll know. I'll know if it doesn't work, and then I'll shift. You know what I mean? Like I'll shift according to like where the success is.
yeah, it's
But
like you're good at what you do. You have a good ear for if something's hitting or not. You've been doing this for
right.
a while. You don't need some random person online, being like, "Oh, you suck, you're mean." And it's like, I like that what you said, like you don't court that, which means you don't like, if you do get a negative comment here and there, or some kind of like troll, you're not gonna like feed into it. You're not gonna keep it going.
Yeah, I'm not gonna feed
Smart.
into it. And I when any comic friend tells me about that, my first response now, and it didn't used to be this way, but now my first response is think about how much pain that guy must be in. Or you know what I mean? Like that person's got to be in a tremendous amount for them to take the time to lash out online at your and send them and everything and have this some people go on and have this really well thought out like angry mean thing that they're using to troll, and they're trying to hit you in all your vulnerable spots, and it's like I'm like, wow, for them to take that much time to write that and then to send it to you, how much pain has that person got to be in their everyday lives? Like it's got to be enormous, you know?
Yeah, and I have
Because
to
you or
remember.
I'll
Yeah,
see something that I don't agree with online. I'll just be like, oh, that's nuts. Or it's like
yeah,
sometimes I'll be on it and a bunch of stuff, and I'll be like, oh, okay, I got to get off this because
you're making yourself manic.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm getting angry. I'm feeling miserable. But instead of stopping on each thing and writing, you're fucking fuck you, but I'll just go, oh, I got to get off this because what's happening inside of me is not good. But I guess not everybody's like that, and I guess if the angrier it is and the more well thought out it is, it's like I'm like, wow, that the level of pain that this person must be in is got to be insane for them to actually take part of their day to stop and do that.
That's a lot. And it's like you're putting your whole almost like monologue or whatever, your whole um like all your talking points, right? You write a long thing, and then what if the person can just be like boop and delete the whole thread, and you're like, no, my arguments,
Yeah, my argument. Yeah,
what a like waste of time. And I think
yeah,
when it comes to trolling and hate, and like right when you encounter someone who's trying to hit your vulnerable spots, it's like, oh, at first it feels bad, obviously, but then I'm like, oh, this person is going into detail and they're focusing on me, probably so they don't have to focus on the shit that's going on in their life. And
right.
instead of fixing their own problems, it's so much easier to be like, oh, this person sucks, or like, you're old, you're fat, like, why don't you have kids, And it's like, well, what are you doing? So
Yeah, it's like that. It's like what their dreams are and what they're like.
mm.
It's all like, yeah, it's they're probably not living the best lives.
I forget who I was talking to, but they were like, yeah, there's something that trolls that the act of trolling actually is born out of like envy and jealousy. That it's
Right.
like, it's usually you'll trigger somebody who wants to do what you're doing, but for whatever reason, like didn't have the balls, didn't have the talent, or like got stuck in whatever their safe job was, and could never really go for it. So that's good to keep in mind. But
Yeah, I get that.
yeah, it's pretty crazy. I don't know. How has your love life been through the lockdown in the last like 8-9 months or so?
Good. I'm dating Katie Hannigan.
Oh, yeah, you with
We're together,
Katie,
so
right? So you've been
she's
together for a
great.
minute now.
Yeah, a couple years. Been dating a couple years, and um, it's been great. She lives 10 minutes away from me,
Mhm.
so and I'm still living with Soder.
Oh,
So it's like,
cool.
but Soder is with his girl in Hoboken, and Katie lives 10 minutes from me. So Soder's in Hoboken, and and Katie will like spend most of the time with me, but sometimes she'll go back to her apartment like during the days and stuff to work on her own stuff, and then she'll come at night, or she'll come on the weekends. So it's cool. So and then if Soder comes back, like she'll go back, and sometimes we'll all hang out together. And then because Soder's in and out, but like mostly in Hoboken. So it's kind of a shifting thing. With this pandemic, it's like we don't know where any of it's going. Like I don't know what the timeline is, and I know the rents have gone down.
Oh, that's
So
good.
yeah, but well, not our rent, but like rents in general
Other
have gone
people's
down.
rent.
But before making a move, like I'm gonna see where this goes. You know what I mean?
Do you see a
But
lot of your
the
friends
thing
and
has been great. Like it's been great
yeah.
with her. Like I don't know how single people like it's got to be tough. Like I have a lot of empathy for like single people in this because it's like I mean it's crazy hard to meet. It wasn't easy to meet people before. I mean I guess with the online thing, but I'm not a huge fan of that. So now it's got to be an online thing probably, and with the masks and being safe in every
Uh,
way, it's got to be difficult
yeah, and it's
and
almost
lonely.
and so lonely. And it's like it used to be when you would date somebody, maybe it was politics or religion or something would be like the first issue where you have to sort out. And now I feel like if you're single and you're trying to find some, okay, the mask issue is that first issue that you have to see like where the person, what side the person falls on. You know, you're confronted with that first, you know, issue right away. And it used to be like if you were single, you could just sort of like busy yourself with lots of hookups and you could be like,
Yeah.
oh, I'll sort of distract myself. Like, or if you don't even want a relationship, like I'll just hook up and have fun. And now that's what I really feel for single people too, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that are afraid and don't want to just like hook up willy-nilly now. So
It's tough to do that in this. I mean, I'm sure there's people who still do it and they don't like whatever they have that energy, so they still do it. But I can't. Yeah, it's a tough situation to be in if you want to kind of play it on the safe side of the pandemic anyway.
yeah, I was gonna ask like, how is it like living with Dan Soder? Like, is he clean? What are his like little roommate quirks? But if he's mostly in Hoboken, maybe those are less
Yeah, but I lived
apparent.
with him for 9 years, so I
Hmm.
could just say that he's the best. He's the
Oh, is he
best. Like
clean?
I love him. He's the
Wow.
best. He's the best human being. Like
Oh.
he's I had such a great time hanging. We hang because it's just more obviously just then living together. It's like we'll talk comedy, and he's in it like we're both in it kind of the same way. It's like we're
Hmm.
fucking in it. You know what I mean? Like from the ground up. Like he started doing check spots at Stand Up New York. Like I was at the Boston Comedy Club at the end of the Boston Comedy Club trying to get up. So it's like came up
Hmm.
through the clubs and came up through the ranks. So we have that, and he's a fantastic person, and I love talking to him about comedy and just it's the best.
Yeah, I've talked to a few comics who have, and that's what a lot of people don't know, or fans of comedy don't know, that a lot of us comics like end up at one point or another living with one, two, three other
Yeah,
stand-up comedians. Like Astoria is a popular spot, like Brooklyn too, less so Manhattan. I don't know anybody like unless you're randomly like have a rich family or got some sort
right.
of a old grandpa
Well, you're mostly
deal.
living by yourself if you're gonna live in Manhattan. Yeah,
Yeah. So, and I know, like I used to date a comic and he lived in Astoria and there was like, it was for many, many years, it was always a comedian apartment, like for, I want to say even decades. It just was like, which I think is such a funny thing, but also kind of a really amazing thing about stand up is like, living with other comics and running shit by them or just hanging out and having the camaraderie. And I wonder if people are like, oh, are you guys always running bits by each other? But it's probably a mixture of both.
yeah, it's fantastic. It's really it's part of our scene. You know what I mean? I don't think other cities. I think other cities you're either living at home or you have a family. Like our scene is very specific that way, where it's like it's tight knit because a lot of us like we live together and hang together and do road work together, and it's like we're all it's the cost of living is high, so we have to live together a lot of times, and everybody's stacked on top of each other. So, but it's great. It ends up lending itself to like a tight knit community.
Has Dan come back at all, like since the
Yeah.
lockdown stuff?
Hmm.
Okay,
He'll
okay.
come back every few weeks, or like not now. He's not going out of town, but he would go out of town once in a while, and he would come back and for like a driving gig, and he would come back and spend the night, and then go on the gig, and then come back and spend the night, and then go back to Hoboken. So it's like he's in and out.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I'd see him there and we hang and be like, oh, old times,
Aw.
pre-pandemic, you know what I mean? We watch football and watch the fights and stuff and just, hang out on a personal level too, not just talking comedy and stuff.
Just dudes being dudes.
Dudes
Yeah.
being dudes.
Yeah, I miss that shit too. Like I really miss, not like I was much of a brunch girl. I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea. I'm not like about that brunch life. But I do miss like the occasional just like fucking getting together with friends, and not like you can't now. I mean you could,
Right.
but it's just yeah, I
But
just don't.
everybody has to get tested first. Everybody has to test I don't know how it works. It's tough. It's tough for now.
It is tough because I had my mom died a couple years ago, and she has a really good her and my dad moved out to Florida. My mom's best friend was down there in Florida, and my mom's best friend was like, "Oh, if you go, because I'm gonna go visit my dad for Thanksgiving in Florida," and my mom's like best friend is like sending me messages like, "Well, you better get tested," and I was like, but then my dad is not even asking me to get tested, so it's weird, and it's like sometimes it's dealing with a lot of people's nervousness. And then I was like, oh,
Right.
are you even going to be in Florida? And then she just like didn't write. It's so weird. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to have like a parent who dies. And then I'm like, well, what is now my relationship to her friends, that I would see and kind of talk to every once in a while. And I'm like, do I have to pick up the slack and like call Diane and call like, do I need to call Andrea? But I don't know. I'm like not really even calling my own friends. So I got to get better at that for sure.
Yeah, that's a tough thing too. It's like staying in touch with people that you would just see naturally.
Yeah,
Like, I'm not that great at that, but so that's tough. But in Astoria, there's been some park hangs and stuff, and that's always been good. Sean Donnelly and Andy Fiore usually will hit me up, be like, "Hey, there's a park hang." It's like, oh, go to the park and see everybody in a nice, safe, open space. Yeah, those are good. Those are good times.
Are you finding like people are generally like keeping their distance at the park hangs, or is it like it just depends on the person?
Well, yeah, I mean, people keep their masks. They can keep their masks on, but it's like when you're outside, I think there's a little bit more leeway.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
sure.
Like as far as like, as long as you're talking from a respectable distance, it's like no one feels threatened or anything like that. So it's good.
Yeah, that's good. I don't know. That's what I miss too about like doing clubs. It was the accidental bumping into people, and then that reminds me, oh yeah, come do my show. Oh yeah, come do this thing. It's like people you wouldn't have thought of, and then people you wouldn't have thought of are asking you to do your show, and then it's like more shit is happening, and it's like you have to work a little bit harder to keep the momentum going. I'm not explaining any of this well, but it's just
no, I definitely understand it. It's like you're immersed in the scene and you make these natural connections just through your natural course of travel, and that's not happening anymore. So it's like you got to pick up the phone and call people instead of just like, oh, I'm going to go to this spot, and then you run into like 6 people that you've known for years, and it's like that's I don't know. I liked that aspect of comedy too, which is now not a thing. It's like you have to be more intentional about meeting up with people.
Yeah, it used to be you could just chat with everybody for 5 minutes, but it's like, okay, if I'm gonna call Joe DeVito, is that gonna be a 40-minute conversation?
Right.
Although like he does talk. I did just have like a 40-minute conversation with Joe DeVito, who's great. And
I love Joe. Yeah. But you have to speed date your friends. 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes.
Like I gotta go. I got another call coming in. I have another spot. Oh man. Well, we're gonna get through this, Mike. We're going to transition to the digital world, and it's going to be great. And we're going to find our fans.
I think so. I think we're going to be digital successes.
Yeah. This is a digital success right now.
That's right.
Mike,
we're getting this.
Where can people find you, follow you, support you, check out your stuff?
Please follow me on social media at Comic Mike V. It's at Comic Mike V, and please subscribe to my podcast, No Disrespect, on the Gas Digital Network, but it's free on iTunes and anywhere you get podcasts. So it's No Disrespect at Comic Mike V. And I also have an Epics half hour that I shot during the pandemic. It's a show called Unprotected Sets, Season 2, Episode 2. So my stand-up is on there.
I love that. I love a good pun. This was great. Thank you so much, Mike. And hopefully I will see you someday
All right.
in
Thanks
the
for
world.
having me on.
Anytime. Bye.
Bye bye.